Ambushed during a routine mission, Pike and the Enterprise fight for survival against a ferocious enemy known only to La'an Noonien Singh in Star Trek Strange New Worlds' first season, 4th episode, Memento Mori. But what happened? What did I like? And what didn't I like so much? Before I get into this recap and review, please note this video contains spoilers, so if you've not yet seen this episode or any of Strange New Worlds' first season, this might not be the video for you. Let's warp into this. The Enterprise is en route to deliver an atmospheric processor to a Federation colony on Finibus 3. The crew are participating in a day of remembrance, paying respects to Federation citizens who lost their lives in the line of duty, with pin badges representing past ships of personal significance. Not taking part is La'an, who dismisses the tradition, as well as Una's concerns on the bridge. Arriving at the colony, Pike notes the lack of welcome, soon discovering the colony's destroyed communications satellite. Una and La'an lead a team to the surface, finding evidence of a bloody massacre at the site of the ravaged colony complex. In orbit, the Enterprise soon encounters survivors from the colony who manage to escape the attack from an unknown enemy on a cargo ship. Pike orders the survivors beamed aboard, but the radiation from the cargo ship makes that impossible, forcing the Enterprise to dock instead. Now back on the ship, La'an recognizes the colony's attackers from a young survivor's story of monsters and alerts the bridge, but it's too late as a ship emerges and attacks a defenseless Enterprise. This week's episode title continues Star Trek's long-standing love of Latin, with Memento Mori being the 15th episode to use the classic and maybe some would say pretentious language. My favourite episode to use a Latin title, you ask? That's easy. It's Sub Rosa. Yeah, love me some Scottish ghost candle sex. Memento Mori actually translates to Remember You Must Die. Not very cheerful really, but a good fit for this episode's grim content. I did expect the title to relate in some small part to Pike's ongoing struggles with his fate, something that has been covered in brief moments already, but we don't get that. Instead, we went in a different direction, with the episode centering around La'an and her origins. Prior to the show's premiere, I have to admit not being the biggest fan of the show featuring a Noonien Singh, fearing the character would just be a cheap tie into one of Star Trek's greatest villains. But I've been pleasantly surprised by La'an so far, with the excellent Christina Chong giving us an intriguing audience surrogate character, fierce yet fallible, a complex character that wouldn't be out of place on either the original series or Deep Space Nine. Consider me now invested in this character. I think there's definitely more to her than just the Khan connection. Severely damaged by the sudden and unprovoked attack, Pike orders evasive maneuvers, but La'an soon arrives on the bridge and suggests retreating to regroup, convincing the captain their attackers are Gorn, a race that wiped out her colony ship along with her family. Pike orders the Enterprise into a nearby brown dwarf, a move that will render shields, sensors and comms useless, leveling the playing field, but also putting the ship at risk due to the dwarf's close proximity to a local black hole. Elsewhere on the ship, an injured Una stumbles into sickbay. With systems down and medical supplies destroyed, Dr. Mbenga and Nurse Chapel have to resort to old techniques to treat the ship's many injured crew. Una is in bad shape and requires surgery that will lead to significant blood loss, but orders Mbenga and Chapel to prioritize limited supplies to another officer instead. In the damaged main cargo bay, Hema and Uhura, who had joined the chief as part of her engineering rotation, are trapped. Injured in the attack, Hema is in no shape to repair the damaged atmospheric processor, which threatens to vaporize the ship. Challenged earlier to impress him with more than just fury, Uhura offers to team up with Hema to repair the processor and save the ship. An awful lot of what we see here bears strong resemblance, either visually or thematically, to great Star Trek of the past, with nods to the submarine-esque battles seen in TOS's The Balance of Terror and The Wrath of Khan, the ship-wide ensemble involving crisis seen in TNG's Disaster, deck destruction seen in Voyager's Year of Hell, and desperate gas giant maneuvering seen in DS9's Starship Down. There are also winks to non-Star Trek sci-fi too, with scenes and visuals evoking strong memories of the nest scene in Aliens, and obviously most of what we saw in Christopher Nolan's Interstellar. Some might say that so much borrowing cheapens the episode, but I don't think that's the case here. This definitely isn't the first show to leverage ideas from what has come before, Trek or otherwise. In fact, if you look hard enough, you can actually see clear and obvious signs of filmmakers quote-unquote stealing from other filmmakers in practically everything that has ever been made. Nothing is original, especially in 2022. In any case, the sum of all these borrowed parts result in a perfectly original story, and that's all that matters really. I did note some odd inconsistencies with Una and M'Benga in particular, just 1 week removed from their individual revelations, and it felt like those events had been kind of forgotten about, with Una's genetically superior healing powers nowhere to be found, and M'Benga showing zero concern for the welfare of his daughter, despite the very real threat of the ship losing power and thus the pattern in the transporter buffer. This inconsistency kind of reminded me of old school episodes where these kind of things would be forgotten about to ensure easier syndicated broadcasting, but that excuse doesn't fly here. Another thing that I didn't really like here was how empty the bridge was throughout the episode. Clearing the bridge during battle is something that we've seen before, but personally, I like the visual of a lot of personnel scrambling to perform tasks, doing their part to contribute towards victory. This would have added weight to the situation, with the Enterprise feeling more than just its regular cast. This isn't new for Star Trek, sure, but the sparse bridge scene here, for me anyway, made the battle feel like an insignificant simulation at times. Now inside the Brown Giant, the Enterprise has no way to see their enemy. Rising to the captain's challenge to get creative, Spock suggests using the ship's functioning atmospheric sensors as a form of radar to detect the Gorn. The tactic works, with Pike dropping the ship's final torpedo on their attackers, successfully destroying the ship. The celebrations are short-lived as they detect more enemy ships, realizing the Gorn sacrificed one of their own to determine the Enterprise's location. Pike orders the ship to dive deeper into the Dwarf, a move that saves the ship, but at the cost of personnel trapped in sections of its lower decks. A Gorn ship follows the Enterprise down, but their aggression is their downfall as the smaller ship is crushed by the gravity of the black hole. Now trapped between the black hole and more attackers, and still unable to see, Spock and La'an take the shuttle Galileo to eyeball the enemy. Aboard the shuttle, the two discover two Gorn vessels communicating using flashing lights. La'an recalls this technique, but is unable to access the painful childhood memory properly and asks Spock to use a mind meld to help her remember. Spock is reluctant, but agrees, taking La'an back to childhood and her time on a Gorn breeding planet. La'an remembers her brother showing her his decoding of the Gorn flashing lights, giving her the information at the cost of his own life. Through the meld's transference, La'an also accesses memories of Spock's farewell with an unknown voice, but Spock quickly severs the connection. La'an uses her memories and knowledge of the Gorn's light language, tricking the larger Gorn ship into destroying the other with a false report that humans had taken the ship. Right, let's talk the Gorn. Initially, I had mixed feelings about their use here. The TOS episode Arena made it quite clear that the event seen in that episode was our first official contact with the famous reptilians, so this would mark another instance of the show changing existing canon. But you know what? I really liked what we saw here. The Gorn have only been seen a handful of times before, so it's not like we were getting a radical, universe-breaking alteration on the level of Discovery's Klingons. Again, this new and terrifying take isn't exactly new in feel. To me here, the Gorn feel similar in description to Firefly's Reavers. Going one step further, in fact, the larger ship's first appearance here evoked memories of watching the Reaver fleet blindside Chiwetel Ejiofor's operative character in the criminally underappreciated big screen continuation Serenity. There was an opportunity here to take a classic alien and turn them into something Star Trek has been crying out for years, a legitimate new recurring threat. And I think this episode nailed it, and in a way that mostly preserves what we see in the Gorn's famous first appearance. With the exception of them being duped by La'an's light show, this all gets a big, scaly thumbs up from me. What gets a small thumbs down, however, is La'an's inconsistent memories. I found it a tad strange that she knows specifics like knowing to scan for polarized EM signatures, but later on in the episode, when asked if she remembers anything else, she doesn't. Being charitable for a second, I guess instincts can play a part in situations like this, but really I just found it to be a bit convenient on the writer's part. I also recall Spock performing his first mind meld on a human in the TOS episode Dagger of the Mind. Perhaps this particular meld was omitted intentionally due to the Discovery and Michael Burnham connection. I don't know, I'm kind of covering for the writers on this one, admittedly. Back in the cargo bay, Hema and Uhura are unable to fully repair the processor, advising Pike they only have 20 minutes before it explodes. In a moment of clarity, Pike suggests using the black hole's gravity to slingshot to safety, an act that would also potentially trick the Gorn into believing the ship had been destroyed. Out of time and out of other potentially more sensible options, the Enterprise jettisons the processor before it explodes, with Uhura and Hema strapping themselves to the deck, riding the wave of the black black hole in a move Ortega suggests be called the Pike Maneuver. Convinced of the Enterprise's destruction, the Gorn depart, with a battered and blackened Enterprise emerging from the black hole's gravity moments later, much to the crew's amazement and relief. La'an, however, remains stern and alert, wondering about the next engagement with their enemy, who now appear to be pushing deeper into Federation space. Impressed with her performance during the crisis, Hema gives Uhura high marks for her assessment. In sickbay, Una awakens from surgery, discovering Mbenga saved her life with an intravenous blood transfusion. In her quarters, La'an finally puts on the pin of remembrance to her colony ship, before joining Pike to honour the lives of the 7 crew members lost during the battle. Aside from some minor quibbles, this was an excellent episode of Star Trek. Dare I say, one of the finest we've gotten in quite some time. This is everything Discovery could have been and more. An episode true to the heart and soul of Star Trek, not afraid to tackle more mature content, but done in a way that could still work for wider audiences, and featuring visuals a universe away from the franchise's more humble and low-tech beginnings. Here the characters handled danger and dealt with adversity like truly enlightened future humans, very much feeling legitimately like a crew of Starfleet's finest. Balance was achieved almost effortlessly once again, with everyone having a moment, contributing towards the resolution of the story. In the midst of battle, characters grew and changed, perhaps, potentially, in ways that will actually be carried through the rest of the show. I've seen some call this the greatest Star Trek since The Wrath of Khan. If that's you, then awesome. I'm stoked you're loving it so much. I'm not going to go that far. I'm really enjoying this, but I am keeping my excitement firmly in check. Strange New Worlds has been impressive so far. It remains an entertaining, if a fairly safe show that's working hard to unite the fandom. It probably won't succeed in this regard. I can't imagine anything doing that really, but of everything we've gotten since Trek's return in 2009, this is probably the closest we've come to a Star Trek that we can all call our Star Trek. I'm giving Memento Mori 4 stars out of 5. But what did you think of this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Star Trek reviews, recaps, lore theories and more coming soon. Until next time, I'm the Trek Lad. Live long and prosper.